Hey guys, welcome back for one of the last episodes of Divine Journey 2. And in this episode, we're going to be creating the final creative item from this chapter, the creative chest. As you can see, it's sitting right here. And with this, we'll be able to make infinite of everything. I hope you enjoy. All right, so finishing out the last episode, we got our fusion multi-block built. And this is going to allow us to make any one of these elements from two other elements by adding up their atomic numbers. Now, this has been gating us from getting certain things like oganescent here, but also it's going to make other things easier. So, as the pack goes on, I'm going to try to keep an eye on what we're requesting. And whenever I see something that we're using a lot of that might be easier in the fusion, then I'll switch it out. But for right now, we need to get back into progression of these creative items. So there's two lines kind of here, I guess three that we need to go down. We need to get this and this to meet up here and then come around this way and up here. And then we'll have this come over and all of these will meet up and eventually we'll get this bewitchment altar. And at that point we can craft this thing, which has been something that we tried to do in the last episode, but we couldn't. But ultimately, I would like to get this entire quest book done. Outside of maybe the key in this episode. So all the way to the creative chest would be ideal. So I think we're going to pick up this quest first because in the last episode, we already encoded all of these recipes. The only thing we were missing was this oganescent ingot from the fusion reactor. All right, so to get oganescent, there's going to be a number of processes we're going to have to go through. And you're going to notice for all of these recipes, I'm going to set it to 64 because we can put the machine in stacking mode. Or at least I think that's how that button works. So if you notice here, oxygen has an atomic number of 8, helium has an atomic number of 2. We're going to put these together with fusion to get neon, which is an atomic number of 10. Before we were getting this from calcium in the fission, which came from calcium carbonate, which came from neodymium. So like this is a long processing chain. And we don't really want to be doing that all the time. So we're just going to get neon like this. Then we're also going to do neon plus iron gives us krypton. And I need to set this one to 64. Then krypton plus lead gives you oganescent. And then in the last episode, I'd actually already set this up, but our oganescent in the chemical caster is going to give us the ingots that we need. At this point, I also need to go ahead and pull out all the matching recipes like this one for the fission, because these fusion recipes are going to be better. And at this point, we should be able to go ahead and request both of these things. All right, perfect. So now that we got that, we're going to come back to this in a minute and we're going to work down here. Let's go ahead and pick up the creative flux capacitor. So we're going to need a recipe first and foremost for the wyvern flux capacitor. And this one's actually done in the laser focus. Then we can upgrade that guy to draconic with the fusion crafting injectors. And also from that recipe, we're still missing the lightning infusion table, which is done in the elite crafting table. So let's set a recipe for that. And finally, we can set the recipe for the creative flux capacitor. Now, I imagine out the gate trying to request this, yeah, I'm going to be missing a bunch of impetus. Also missing a few lightning charges, and that's it. So some impetus and lightning charges. For the impetus, we need otherworldly tears, so let's just request up. Okay, some of those buffers are off. Let's request up another 64. And then the lightning charges, we can craft up 28 before we run out. All right, our otherworldly tears just finished, so let's see how many of these things we can craft. As many as we had, otherworldly tears, perfect. So can we request this thing now? Yes. And when the ingredients show up, we can craft this guy down. All right, moving on. Hey, we got 8 antimatter clusters from that. That's pretty nice. Next, we need the creative power cell. So this is the recipe. Most of this stuff is very easy, but I'm a little concerned about the ultimate machine frame and the infinite battery because I believe we already used our last one of these. But we can grab that recipe and send it to the advanced crafting table and let the ME system tell us what we're missing. And it seems to be quite a lot. This, I'm assuming, is a missing recipe. Draconic cores are a buffer issue. All of these sheet metals should be a buffer issue. Red matter, we'll grab that out of the tablet as well as the white matter. Flying ointment, we can increase the buffer. And crystalline alloy is missing. We only got 6,000. That stuff does craft up pretty quick, but I don't know if it's quick enough. And star leather is another buffer issue, as well as ender casings and living rock. Lots of buffer issues here. I'm gonna try to get these sorted out. All right, I wrote it all out and I have 17 different things that I'm missing or have buffer issues or something. So I'm gonna go through and fix it all, and I'm probably gonna turn it into some kind of montage. Alright, mission complete. I fixed all of the issues, and we're still going to have to wait a little while, but I just wanted to point out the biggest thing that I did in there, and that was transferring from the starlight dimension to a supremium dimension. So now we're just going to have an infinite amount of this stuff being made. Not a super big deal. I mean, we've already done this for stellar and mystic, but still nice to have. So for right now, I think I want to work on this quest for the Ender Star and the Endest Pearl. This Ender Star is actually used to make the Endest Pearl. And I believe we're going to need 3 Ender Stars in total, but only 2 Endest Pearls. So let's go ahead and request up 12 Star Metal Singularities. Process 12 Ender Ingots into Enhanced Ender Ingots. And we're going to need to craft 2 of these Irradiant Stars, which use Shifting Stars. So I'm going to gather all of these ingredients, and we can craft them up in the Iridescent Altar. And finally, we can put it all together in the Ender Crafter to get our Ender Stars. Alright, we just made 3 of these, but we actually only need to put 2 into the next craft, which is going to be the Endest Pearl. And for this, we're missing Ender IO Singularities, so we're going to need to request up 8 of those, as well as 8 Corruption Cores. And these guys are expensive. Look at this, if I can find it. Right here, they use 1,000 Greed Runes, and they also use 512 Runes of Fire. So let's get it started. And when all of our ingredients finally do show up, we can craft these down into our Corruption Cores, and then into our 2 Endest Pearls. Now these Endest Pearls are going to be used in the Infinity Catalyst recipe, We just haven't got to this point yet. We still got to make quite a few things before we do. As for our final ender star, we're going to use that to make the essence of additivity. So let's set an ultimate crafting recipe for that. And let's see if we can request one of those. We're missing a couple mana diamonds and europium ingots. We haven't set up a recipe for that. So we'll need europium ingot recipe for the chemical caster. And the mana diamonds have already filled themselves back in, so we can request this guy. And craft it down once the ingredients show up. Let's go ahead and claim our quest rewards. We get a black hole band from that one and some low covalence from this one. And I think next up I want to work on these cosmic foods. First up, we're going to need 8 wheat flour and 8 raw chicken inside of an induction smelter. That's going to give us our chicken nuggets, which we can then craft down with some neutronium nuggets into cosmic neutronium nuggets. Next up, we're going to need to craft up some tacos. We're going to need 8 of these. It's a fairly simple recipe. We just need a few more beetroots. And we can upgrade those into the cosmic neutronium tacos. And finally, we're going to need to do some burgers. So we're going to need a little bit of toast, along with some cheese curds, steak, and cabbage to get burgers. And then once again, we're going to craft these down into the neutronium version. We actually get 32 neutronium as a reward from that. And that brings us into cosmic meatballs and the ultimate stew. To get the cosmic meatballs, we're going to need to process all of this through the high voltage plasma fire. Then while those are running, we're going to request up the 10 witches cauldrons that we need for the ultimate stew. Then once all of those are finished up, we can craft our 2 ultimate stew. Oh man, I didn't hold the cosmic meatballs in my inventory, so I didn't get that task. So I guess I'm going to have to craft them again. Alright, got them crafted up, and we get 32 more neutronium as a reward from that one. And I believe at this point, the only thing we're missing for the creative power cell is a little bit of Orbis Terra. So if we're fast about this, we can request it. And that craft is going to take ages, so I would like to try to go ahead and set up some recipes for this colored light adhesive yielding, or clay for short. So we should be able to just set a recipe for this, and then let the system tell us what we're missing. Alright system, what am I missing? Gelatinous slime drops and blue ink cap extract. Okay, well for the blue ink cap extract, we're going to need to set a series of cauldron recipes. So we need to make the blue ink cap from mushrooms, iron gall, and liquid witchcraft. And then we can make the iron gall ink from cold iron, oak apple galls, and ink sacks. But for the gelatinous slime drops, we're going to need to craft up a bunch of these drying racks. And then the way this works is we can hang them on the wall and then hang the slime balls from it. And after a period of time, it will convert. So I'm going to set up a bunch of these. But these are only temporary. Once these get done making the gelatinous slime and we've got all of our things crafted, we can take these down. I don't like the way they look on this wall. But we can't actually request any of these right now because several of these recipes conflict with recipes already running for the creative power cell. So here we are about an hour later. All of our ingredients have just showed up. So let's craft this thing down. And we can claim our 64 dragon tokens as a reward and move on to the creative qubit cluster. And conveniently enough, we already have all of the things encoded for this. So we just need to make a recipe and request one. Oh, and that was quick. We got all of those items almost instantly. Alright, we get 16 awakened dragon tokens from that one, and that brings us to the creative capacitor bank, which we also have most everything we need for. The only thing that we're going to have to add is this draconic solar panel. So let's go ahead and grab that recipe and then all of the recipes leading up to this. Hopefully we should be able to go ahead and craft that as well. Looks like we can. This one actually did take a little bit longer because we had to craft up some wyvern cores, but we got it now. Alright, we get 4 corrupted dragon tokens, and then that one leads us into the spot where all of these combine down. So we got the creative energy cell, which also isn't too bad. The most expensive parts are these parts that we already have crafted up. But we will also need to set recipes for the chaotic solar panel and Klein star omega. So let's go ahead and grab this recipe first, and then we'll get these other 2. Alright, well, I did set up recipes for the Klein stars, but they can't seem to auto-craft with the AE2 system. So what I'm gonna have to do is craft these all manually. Now there is also the option of potentially setting up an RF Tools crafter, but from the looks of it, we're only gonna need one of these. So I think doing it manually would be just fine. And actually, while I'm doing these manually, I'd like to go ahead and request a chaotic solar panel, so we're not having to wait on that when the craft time comes. Alright, I got the Klein star crafted up and the chaotic finished, and it looks like we can request it. And that one once again showed up pretty much instantly, probably because we pre-crafted this stuff. But either way, we can now craft this thing down. All right, we get 8 TNT singularities from that one, and that brings us into the creative energy battery, which once again is a pretty easy craft. We do need to first create an energy battery though. That way we can set the one in the pattern as the one that we've crafted so we don't have MBT issues. And we're gonna need 8 of those for that pattern. And let's see if we can request this thing. We sure can. And I'm liking this part of the creative chapter. These crafts are pretty easy. There we go. We got our creative energy battery. Oh, nice. We get 8 reactor stabilizers from that one. And that brings us to the creative lightning cell. And for this one, we're missing the recipes for the RF lightning generator, the mystic lightning cell, and then this infused glass we're going to have to craft manually in the celestial altar. So let's get all of that taken care of real quick. Then we can set our recipe and request it. Alright, we got that quest complete. We get 32 GRC blocks, that's pretty nice. And we're making some good progress here. So next up we got the creative capacitor, which we actually get 3 of from this craft, and I believe we only need 2. So let's make that recipe. And we're also going to need chemical caster recipes for each of these ingots, as well as fusion recipes for each of the elements. Now let's see if we can request those up as well. Looks good. Oh, and all of our ingredients just showed up, so let's get this thing crafted down. Or I guess these 3 things. Now, like I was saying, I'm pretty sure we only need 2 of these. So the last one we can just hook up to our energy system, and we have infinite power now to supply all of our machines. We also get 12 cryo-stabilized flux ducts as a reward, which is kind of meh, but I mean, at least we got it. And next up, we have the creative energy cube, and I believe we're going to actually need 2 of these to craft into the energy source, then the RF source, which splits off here. So let's first grab a recipe for that creative energy cube, and then we're also going to need the chemical caster and fusion recipes for fermium and hafnium as well. And since we're going to need 2 of these, let's see if we can request them right out of the gate. All we're missing is 2000 enriched alloy. Well, let's just give that drawer an upgrade, and it's going to take a little bit of time for this to catch up, but in the meantime we can just request the first one. Then once our buffer catches up, we can request the second one. Now that we got that, that leads us into the creative energy source, which we're also going to need to craft 2 of. So let's grab a recipe for that one, as well as some recipes for the wireless RF battery and the rainbow generator. Now if we go to request 2 of these, the only thing we're missing is some splash potions of luck. So let's get our brewing stand back down. We'll put our watch of flowing time next to it, and we can speed run this process. Now we can request 2 of these and craft them up whenever the ingredients show up. Alright, we get 16 magical singularities from that, and that leads us into the creative RF source, which we're also going to need 2 of. So let's grab a recipe for that one, and we're also going to need recipes for the energy core. Or I guess just 1 recipe, all of this other stuff we already have. So now let's see if we can request 2 of those. Looks like we can. And once again, craft it down when the ingredients show up. Alright, we get 16 powerful singularities as a reward, and this is where it actually splits off. So let's start with the creative fluid tank. So this is our recipe. It's actually going to use some of that colored light adhesive yielding that we set a recipe for earlier but never crafted. And the rest of this stuff outside of berkelium and tantalum, which we're going to have to set recipes for, we should already have. So let's set that recipe and then we'll get the berkelium and tantalum. Then fingers crossed, we should be able to request this. We're missing a few lightning charges and some full heavy oxygen tanks. Well, the lightning charges are easy. We can craft up those. And the oxygen tanks, we're actually going to need 24 because we're going to need a couple of them in the next craft too. So we're going to need to request those, but we're missing a few ever-full urns. That's easy enough to fix though. We should just be able to process these unending bowls into ever-full urns through our thaumatorium. And now we can request them. And we'll need to fill each of them up using our oxygen compressor. All right, I'm actually still in the process of filling all of these up. We still got 16 more to do, but that's 8 of them. So we should now be able to request our tank. Yes, let's go. All right, well, I got the quest, but it didn't give me a little notification. We get 1 chaos stabilizer core. And right here it says, before you move further, use this in a fluid transposer or the following creative reservoir on a fluid transposer to turn liquid space into an infinite source. And basically all that's asking us to do is to melt down this essence of space that we made previously in the magma crucible. That's going to give us liquid space. And let's just have it auto output into the fluid transposer above. And then we can fill that into our creative fluid tank to get infinite liquid space, which we're going to use to fill the inputs of our last liquid crafter so that we can make this essence of dimensionality, which is right here in the quest book, and that's being blocked off by our essence of extension, which needs essence of length and essence of enlargement. We already have an essence of length and we have already made an essence of enlargement, but we use this for something else. So we're going to need to request 1 more of those. Then whenever that's finished up, we're going to need to get down a bucket of growth infusion liquid, throw in a stack of pistons, our essence of enlargement, and our essence of length, and out pops our essence of extension. Now this thing is only 1 of 3 ingredients, or I guess 4 if you count the liquid in this liquid crafter. We're also going to need 2 dimension builders, if we can request them. We're short perfectium on well, I guess what I'm going to do to remedy that is extend this platform 1 more time and set each of these 8 different plots as tier 3 inferium. Oh yeah, now we're cooking. We're getting about 20 to 30 inferium essence blocks a second, and that is equating to roughly 1 perfectium essence every couple seconds. Although we are still missing 750, so it's still going to take quite a little while. But inferium does have EMC, so I'm going to sit here and fill this thing while I have all of the other things running at the same time, and hopefully that'll speed this up. Or better yet, we can request another energy condenser Mark II and let that keep the crafter stocked up to 100% of the time, using void metal as an input and transfer through integrated dynamics. After letting that run for just a few minutes, we do now have everything we need, so let's request this. And after a few minutes of sitting around and waiting, all of our ingredients have showed up, so we can craft our 2-dimension builders. Then the last thing that we're going to need is 4-dimensional transceivers, which we do already have a recipe for, so we can request those up and process all of these items through our liquid space liquid crafter to get our essence of dimensionality. Oh, and that actually gives us 16 reactor stabilizers. Pretty nice. So we could come back up here and pick this up and keep moving, which I think honestly is what we're going to have to do in order to get this one. But I would like to make sure that we don't need this fluid tank anymore. So let's start here, which really doesn't look like all that bad of a recipe to get our essence of inversion. We do need a lot of power, but thankfully we have infinite of that now, and we have inverted potentia. So let's go ahead and make this recipe. And we're also going to need to set a recipe for the invert cell and the inverter card, which means we should now be able to request our essence of inversion. And for as much power as this thing uses, it's actually charging pretty quick. And once this thing actually finishes crafting, we're going to need a few other things to combine with it. Starting with the essence of enlargement. This was the most expensive, so let's go ahead and request another one of these. Oh look, I just requested the enlargement and the inversion just finished, so let's pick up that quest. And we can claim our 32 infused diamonds as a reward from that. And yes, that does bring us into the next quest, which is going to use that essence of enlargement. So while that's running, let's go ahead and try to pick up these other two things. For the hellish bauble, we're missing one demonic elixir. We can request that. And we're also missing some nether steel, which is going to be dark solarium, nether bricks, and cold iron in the alloy smelter. Well, that's easy enough. We can just batch up a stack of it and craft our hellish bauble. Okay, so we're missing one item now, and that's going to be the crystal cluster. And it looks like we're only missing 4 demon blood shards, which we do have on request. So let's just request 4 of those. Then we can craft our crystal cluster. And the only thing we're waiting on is this essence of enlargement, which didn't take too much longer to get ready. And now we can combine all of this stuff up in the Hellfire Forge to get our essence of the contrary, which would lead us into this quest if we weren't being blocked off back here. So it's time to get back into the creative drone. So let's grab a recipe for that thing and see if we can request it. What are we missing? A little bit of basic wafers. That is a buffer issue. And a bunch of white matter. I can get that filled in real quick. All right. I got the white matter and the buffer issue taken care of. And we also need to get lanthanum, which is going to be a chemical caster recipe and then a fusion recipe. Or maybe we can do it with fission. Well, either way, it would still need a fusion recipe because all of these things that go into the fission to give you it need fusion. So let's just do a fusion recipe. Now, fingers crossed, we should be able to request this. Yes, sir. And here it is, our creative drone. That gives us 1 chaos stabilizer core and leads us into the creative reservoir. So let's first set recipes for each of the regular reservoirs. Then we can use that resonant reservoir, and we're going to need 3, 6, 9, 10 of those to make the creative reservoir. And now we should be able to request that. Oh, we're missing the darmstadtium. All right, well, that's going to be another chemical caster recipe along with a fusion recipe. And now we can request it. Well, that was weird. I got the creative reservoir quest even though I haven't crafted it yet. And for some reason, 3, 6, I only got sent 9 resonant reservoirs. Oh, somehow I messed the recipe up and only set it to 9. So let me fix that. And that's because for some reason it's not letting it stack the reservoir in here. So I had to add an extra one to fix that pattern. But now we can craft this thing down. And since we already got our quest, we can go ahead and claim our 32 corrupted cores as a reward, bringing us to the creative blood drop, which is going to require 8 open tanks full of blood. So let's go ahead and grab those manually. Then we can set our recipe and request it. All right, we get 16 corrupted dragon tokens, and that brings us into the creative activation crystal, which is honestly one of the easier recipes we've had in a while, but that may just be because we've already crafted this stuff down. Either way, let's grab our recipe, craft up our 2 awakened activation crystals, and request our creative version. 32 more corrupted dragon tokens, and that brings us to the creative sacrificial dagger. So let's grab a recipe for that one. We're also going to need chemical caster and fusion recipes for rhenium, and a recipe for a sacrificial dagger. And we should be able to request that thing and craft it down, which gives us 16 more chaos stabilizer cores and brings us into the thing that we've been waiting on for a while, the blessed stone. It says this cannot be broken in survival. Well, I don't know about that one, Chief. But either way, let's go ahead and create a recipe for it. And we'll also need a recipe for the Stone Witch's Altar, which needs a recipe for lively nature. And that may actually require me to craft up some more of these spruce, oak, and birch jars from bewitchment, but I'm not too sure yet. Let's just try to request it and let it tell us what we're missing. Yep, indeed, we are missing 18 spruce, birch, and oak jars. Thankfully, those should be easier than the first time we made them, since we have our watch of flowing time. We can just fill these in and then speed it up to get the jars. And now we should be able to request this thing Yes, we can. And this one also showed up pretty quick. So let's go ahead and get it crafted down, get our quest, claim the 32 chaos stabilizer cores as a reward. And now we're just going to have to see what happens when I place this up here. If I can't break it into survival, then odds are I'm just going to go into creative because I'm not going through the process of crafting another one of these things. But I want the infinite altar power to get this one essence done. So let's just give it a go. All right, we got it down. Now, if I right click this, that should activate our ritual that we've been waiting a while on, I think. Oh, yep, there we go. And now I can physically break this, and if it doesn't drop the item, I'm just going to cheat another one in, but let's do it. Okay, it dropped it. I guess that quest here is a little outdated, but that's fine, because now we have our essence of cycles. We get 4 death cores from that. And what in the world? Oh, I guess we got to do this piece next, the essence of ways. So one of the tasks is for 6 colored light adhesive yielding. So let's request up 6 of those if we can. All right, we got those. And we're also going to need 10 dark matter, 4 waystones, 14 walkways, 6 celestial gateways, and 9 elven gateway cores. And we put it all together in the elite crafting table to get our essence of ways and a quest. We get 64 infused ender pearls as a reward, and that brings us into the essence of movement, which comes from combining our essence of motion, essence of cycles, and essence of ways in the Thaumcraft crafting table. I can't remember the name at the moment, to get our essence of movement. Then we can claim 1 reactor stabilizer as a reward from that. And that brings us into the essence of repetition. And to get that, we just need to throw our essence of logic and our essence of movement into the high voltage plasma fire. And that one gives us another chaos stabilizer core. And it would bring us into this, I think, but we're missing something else. Oh, we're missing this quest back here in chapter 28. And we're actually going to need 2 of these red morning stars and 1 red guitar. So I believe all of these tools in my inventory are the ones that we're going to need to upgrade. And we're going to take these up to refined corallium first, then dreadium, then sentient. Oh, except for the hoe. The hoe doesn't go to sentient, it goes straight to thaumium. So we'll skip that for now, and we're going to take the sentient up to mana steel. Then each of the mana steel is going to go into an alchemy array, and we're going to hit it with a binding reagent. And that's going to turn them all into bound tools. Each of those bound tools is going to go to elementium. And finally, this is where we meet back up with our hose, because everything's going to get upgraded to thaumium. Then this next step actually has each thing with a different name, like we have shovel of earth mover and pickaxe of the core, but it's pretty much the same recipe. We have some ender sticks, rare earths, thaumium, and then different types of V for each tool. And that's going to go through our auto infusion matrix. Once we have those, we can upgrade all of them into cold iron, then heavy duty. Oh, not the sword though, the sword goes to electricium. Then everything except the sword will go to Desh, and the sword will go to Skyfather. And once again, everything except the sword is going to go to titanium. And the sword will actually go to Mystic through the Lightning Infusion multi-block. So let's set a recipe for that and request it. Okay, and this is where the sword actually comes back in. So we need to go ahead and get that one to heavy duty, then Desh, and then titanium. And we should all be at the same spot now. Then we can make a Lux Saber from Extra Utilities 2 in our extreme crafting table, which is used in combination with the titanium sword to make the sword of the wyvern. And then everything else other than the hoe is going to be also upgraded into wyvern using some draconium, wyvern cores, crystalline, and supremium. At which point we're going to upgrade all of the wyvern tools into draconic. So let's just set recipes for those. And the titanium hoe will be the same way, it just doesn't have a wyvern tier. Alright, our 2 shovels are still crafting up, but we can go ahead and get started with these next crafts. Also, I made 1 less draconic hoe because We made one too many. Two of our pickaxes are going to need to be upgraded into dark matter picks. I said picks. Two of them are going to be upgraded into dark matter hammers, and then the other two are going to be upgraded into dark matter picks. Then we also need the dark matter sword, the dark matter hoe, the dark matter axe, and when our shovels are finally finished up, the dark matter shovels. Oh, and this is also where our shears come back into play, where we don't really craft these all the way up until the dark matter because it's not chained like the other ones. So we're just going to craft the dark matter shears. Then we'll upgrade all of them one more time into the red matter variant, at which point that should complete a couple of quests for us. Once those quests are complete, we can make 2 of these red morning stars with the hammer, pickaxe, and shovel. And then we'll need to make 1 qatar with the axe, sword, shears, and hoe. Alright, that was quite the process, but we get some red matter as a reward, red matter as a reward, and corrupted dragon tokens. And if we go back to our creative tab, that should have opened up the quest that we were missing. And this one is to craft the essence of breaking. All of this Athaxium stuff we already have, as well as the red morning star. We're just going to have to make a couple of these colored lenses. So let's set a recipe for the lightning block breaker. And I believe we're going to need 8 of these, so let's request those. Then we'll also need 16 resonating gems, which I've already grabbed out of the ME system, and some more glass lenses, which I'm just going to batch craft another stack of. Then we should be able to make our 2 break colored lenses. And our essence of breaking in the advanced crafting table. And there is a lot of text for this quest, and it only gets us 16 low covalence. But that does lead us into the next quest with the essence of unbroken. And this is going to use that one we just made along with the essence of contrary we made earlier, and a few Athaxium pillars in the empowerer. So I think I'm going to just try to steal this middle one here, and hopefully we can get all of these replaced. It doesn't look to be crafting. Did I get the wrong ones? I think I did. Yeah, I think I need to go out one more block. Oh yeah, now we're crafting. Okay, is that our essence of the unbroken? Yeah. This one also has a wall of text attached to it, and we get 13 neutronium, and opens up our quest for the essence of continuity. And this requires a few random things. We can go ahead and craft up the Nazar amulet, and we can request these Aurum crystals. And I'll also need to craft up 2 more colored lenses, but these are going to use relocator obelisks rather than the lightning block breakers that we had last time. So let's set some recipes for these and request 8 of them so that we can craft our 2 push lenses. And the last thing we're going to need is an additional essence of ways. So I'm going to go ahead and request all of this stuff and get it crafted, leaving us just needing to combine all of this stuff together in our arc furnace to get the essence of continuity. Alright, we get 16 GERC blocks from that as a reward, and that opens up the very last essence, I believe. Nope, I guess we have one more after that. But the next one is going to be the essence of continuity, the essence of dimensionality, and the essence of additivity, and our plasma fire to get the essence of time. Alright, 4 time absorbers as a reward. Let's keep moving forward. Next up, we have the essence of infinity. For this one, we're actually going to want to craft up an additional runic altar. And we're going to put it right here in front of all of our generating spreaders. And if I get my wand out, point them at it. Then we need to right click on the essence of time, the essence of matter, and the essence of repetition. And if we hover over this item, it actually says it takes 50 full mana pools to craft. So once this thing sends in 50 mana pools worth of mana, then it'll be crafted. But that's going to take quite a while, which is why I wanted to go ahead and get into that before we did all these other ones, even though these might be a little bit easier. So next up, we have the creative ME essential storage cell, which is quite the expensive craft. I got a feeling that we're going to be missing quite a few things for this. But let's encode the recipe and we'll let the ME system tell us what we're missing. All right, we're missing a little bit of impetus here and here. Those are easy to take care of. I can just craft that down and do a little batch. We're missing purified tablets, which is a pretty big issue because we should have those. They're on passive. And then 64K ME Essential we're going to need a recipe for, and tennessine ingots we're going to need a recipe for. So let's go ahead and make those recipes real quick. All right, recipes are taken care of. Now let's address the purified tablets. Seems that we're missing purified tablets because we're out of runes of sloth. And we're out of runes of sloth because we're out of runes of winter. And we're not actually completely out. We do have the stuff to make these. It's just crafting down really slow. But we do have a little bit of backlog of these in this buffer. So if we just drop these in when we request, we should be good. All right, so let's drop these in and give this thing a go real fast. Oh yeah, we got it requested. And it shouldn't take too terribly long to craft up outside of maybe the 64K Essentials. And actually, these 16 384Ks taking way longer than the 64K Essentials. Which, I mean, it makes sense. We're having to craft 65,000 logic circuits. But, yeah, it's a little crazy. I also realized that I only put 4 64K Essential storage cells in here. But we actually need 8, so I went ahead and requested up those 4, and we can just throw them in this chest to be ready for the craft. Oh, and while I was waiting on all of those processors to craft up, this thing is now filled with mana, so if we give it living rock and right click, we get our essence of infinity, which leads us into the quest for the infinity catalyst. Now, I believe most of this stuff we already have. Let me actually grab out everything we already have. Oh yeah, we already have everything except for these antimatter clusters. And we're gonna need 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. So let's request those up. Okay, we need some more dark matter. All right, I got the dark matter. Yes, we can request them now. And looking at both of these crafts side by side, I'm not sure which is gonna finish first. I am using the watch for the antimatter clusters. There's not really much we can do with it for these, but we still have 23,000 1Ks to craft all the way down into 16 384Ks. And then we have, you know, some odd 20,000 compounds and elements and stuff to make, but these don't take near as long as these do. So I guess we'll see which one finishes first. And it looks like our winner by a hair is going to be the essential storage. So let's get that crafted down. We can claim 64 condensed ignis as a reward. And we're missing this. Okay. So the thing that we were working on is the thing blocking us. That works out nicely. Because ever so slightly later, our anti-hydrogen is finished up. So we just need to compress all of these down and craft our infinity catalysts. Alright, we get 64 ultimate singularities as a reward from that. Not too bad. Then the next step is going to be to throw 2 of our infinity catalysts into our thaumatorium to make infinity ingots. And you can see this uses quite a lot of essentia. And when it's all said and done, that'll give us 2 infinity ingots. Oh, we get 64 chaos stabilizers as a reward from that one. And that did open up our mana tablet, which actually doesn't look too bad. The only thing we're going to have to craft is some mana tablets, and these use purified tablets, so I hope our buffer's filled back up. But let's just set a recipe for this and let the ME system tell us what we're missing. And as we expected, it's purified tablets. But we can once again take the stack that was in that buffer, and if we're quick about it, which I am not, we can get it. There we go. And it should be crafted instantly. Oh yeah, that's nice. All right, let's put it all together. Oh, we get 64 greed runes from that. That's actually pretty nice. Maybe not at this point, because like we're almost done, but it would have been nice, you know, half a chapter ago. Anyway, that takes us into the creative mana pool, or the everlasting guilty pool is what they call it. And all in all, it doesn't look too bad. These nature blessings are going to take a little while, and there's a few recipes we're going to have to set, but we can grab this recipe first. Then we can set a recipe for the fabulous maniple, the neutronium singularity, and the nature's blessing. Oh, but for the nature's blessing, we do need to remove the runic altar, and then we need to add a living rock as the very last slot. All right, the moment of truth. Can we request this? We are missing runes of sloth still. Well, I think I can disable the insert on this that's using the runes of sloth, and it shouldn't take too long for those to build up. And I know that we're gonna need them, so while we're waiting on those runes to build back up, I think maybe we can request 3 energy condensers Mark II. It says we can. That's a crazy craft though. And those energy condensers are actually going to be on top of that one we made earlier for the Perfectium. We'll grab that up. And then they are used to make the creative storage upgrades for these creative component pouches. And we're going to need 4 of these to make the creative chest. So we can also go ahead and craft up the regular component pouches while we wait. And that'll just remove one more thing that we got to do later on. All right, we got all 16 of those now. So I guess it's back to waiting around for all this stuff to finish up. All right, it's been about an hour. All of our energy condenser Mark IIs have finished. And we also have some sloth runes at our disposal to craft the everlasting guilty pool, which didn't take too long for our items to show up. So let's craft this thing down. All right, let's claim 64 runes of gluttony as a reward and move on to the creative component pouches, which should be as simple as setting a recipe and requesting 4 of them. All right, well, I actually missed the clip of the quest picking up, but we got 4 corrupted cores as a reward from that one. And that brings us to the creative chest, but looks like we're being blocked off for the Kikoku here. Now, earlier we did go ahead and craft up the Morning Star and the guitar, and the white matter's easy, so all we have left to do is to craft these Opinium cores perfected, which if we follow down the chain, go all the way back to the Opinium core pathetic. So I'm hoping we can just set recipes for these and let the system figure it all out. All right, fingers crossed right out of the gate we have all the recipes set up. We're missing a little bit of dark matter and some blocks of nether stars. Well, the blocks of nether stars are a recipe issue, so we can grab that. And the dark matter I can just grab out of my transmutation tablet. And now we should be able to request these. Let's go. All right, they just finished crafting up, so we should now be able to make our Kikoku. And we can claim 3 penultimates as a reward from that. Now if we go back to the creative chapter, we have access to the creative chest quest. And at the very least, we should have recipes for most of this stuff. Although I think these essences of enclosement may cause a couple issues because I don't think we have recipes for these. But let's just first grab a recipe for this thing and we'll let the system tell us what we're missing. All right, according to this, the only thing we're missing is the essence of enclosement, which is kind of what I was expecting. And to fix that, if we just set a recipe for 100 cardboard boxes into 1 essence of enclosement, and then we can put this in this interface to go to this chest, and then we'll craft it in the neutronium compressor. We should now hopefully be able to request this. Yes. Ooh. All right, the time is finally here. We've been waiting on this creative chest for almost 600 hours now. But let's go ahead and get this thing crafted up. This is what it took. That's for real. That's crazy. All right, we got our creative chest. We can claim our corrupted dragon tokens as a reward, although I'm not sure that it really matters. And the next step is to craft the key to infinity. But I think we're probably going to save this one for the next episode. For right now, I just want to show you how this creative chest works. So if we put a controller slave here, and then a creative chest here, then we hook that creative chest up to this drawer system with some integrated dynamics, we can create essentially infinite of every item in the game. For example, we only have 1 of these infinity catalysts left, and we're going to have to craft quite a few infinity ingots. So if I just put this in here, it's going to make infinite infinity catalysts, and instantly fill this drawer. Then I can process this through the thaumatorium one more time to get another infinity ingot. Then once again, put this into the creative chest and we instantly fill this drawer. Let's say the ingots are not enough. We can make a block, throw it in the chest, and we actually need a drawer for this because we don't already have one set. And there we go, infinite of those. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. We put one item in and we can pull an infinite number of that item out. So that works out really nicely for us. And hopefully it's going to make these next couple, or I guess not next couple. We have one chapter left and then we're finished with the quest book. This one's called Mystery, so we're going to save this for the next episode. And I think this is where we're going to end it here for today. Man, this has been a long time coming. We finally got the creative chest. I'm so happy. So thankful for all of you guys sticking through this series with me. And I'm really just over the moon about getting really close to finishing this pack. I can't even describe it to you. But I really hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, make sure to drop down and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one.